Thank you. It's my favorite.
Yeah. Okay. There was a group that came in Saturday. No, Sunday. Been on Sunday. She'd been in before about 2 months. Her and her husband still hadn't come in. Apparently they haven't gone because they just sold their house. Okay. Yeah. She came back in this week. This is the same part of their contract. That's great. I know we might make it on. You can see my face right there.
Is there a cheese? Is that going to be on there?
It's going to be there the whole time.
I shouldn't sit on it?
No. Well, yeah, could you see this screen? Hey, that's a nice shot. Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm getting tickets today. Karen called me this morning. We have our sales meeting at 4 o'clock. So she said, get me tickets then, and then you can talk to your people. But it is 16th, yeah. So, but yeah, we'll have all the details today. Sure, so I'll text you. Around like 5:46 when the meeting's over. So you know that I have them, and then I'll come by this week to give them to you. Okay? Of course. I'm sorry it took forever for me to be like, hey, let's go. You know, I knew as much as you did, so.
If you call me anytime after 5:30, Okay. All right. How's it going? Nice to finally meet you too as well. Really good. Antonio.
can you go over and just kind of check in?
I look every.
So you want to be?
No.
Can you go over just to the left? Yes.
2.9, I think.
This house is almost $1 million.
You're stage right. Now that's good right there.
Is it? Now what about the lighting? Are we doing okay on the lighting? The lights?
Probably. It's actually probably good when they're on.
Okay. I think everybody knows Everybody go ahead and have a seat. We'll get this started. That's funny. Hey, good morning. Wow. Can you believe today's already the 17th? We're halfway through the month. It's almost Christmas. What are you talking about? So hey, good morning. Lots of information flying around. So one of the items that I'm going to share with you is we're doing a live feed right here in this chair. It's delayed of about 30 seconds, and it's going up to our agents that didn't want to come into the meeting. So now we're going to have a lot of remote possibilities for you to where if you can't make the meeting and you want to do the live feed, you have that additional advantage versus coming in.
I don't want to get used to that. It'll be empty room.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's still belly-to-belly business going on, so you don't necessarily have to do that. All right, so hey, I just had a mole removed, nothing serious. So just had some laser type stuff done, so no big deal. All right. Yeah. All right. So hey, we let's start with the Flagstaff office. Jamie Schertz and Carolyn are here today. Can you introduce your Flagstaff agents and give us an update of the build out, what's going on, the networking, all that good stuff?
So there's a couple of us here today. A lot of them, can't come last minute, but this is Sarah Allah, and this is Carolyn. We have a new office going up at Aspen Place, which is amazing. We have about 20,000 foot traffic a month there. So the opportunity for our agents in Flagstaff, I mean, even for anyone here, your clients, by the way, 90% come from Scottsdale PD. If you just inform your clients that you have an office and a presence there and you work with us or need help, it's a huge networking opportunity. You can supplement your income. 90% of sales are sold between May and September in Flag. It's a no-brainer for you. Awesome.
If you do business in Flagstaff, however, it's a different board, a different MLS board.
Same thing with Sedona.
And Sedona, there are 3 different boards. So as a company, we belong to them, but you as an individual to get access and your lockbox keys, you have to join those boards as well. Or refer it on,
Right.
just know your key won't work unless you join your
Well,
voice.
in addition, our office specifically, I mean, we only brought 18 people on, but we have the #1 market share other than on-site sales at Forest Highlands, Pine Canyon, and Flagstaff Ranch. So it's a turnkey deal for you. I mean, it's really seamless. If you need any marketing pieces or social media pieces, pictures to use to let people know that you can integrate this into your business, we're here. Anything you need.
Thank you so much, Jamie. We appreciate that.
Yeah, so with that being said, I got a couple of other agents to introduce. One I see in the back, Jim Scott. You're going to be one of the agents that goes back between Flagstaff and Phoenix. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Jim Scott, and I'll be serving the convent in both Scottsdale and Flagstaff.
Yeah, and you're a member of Pine Canyon up there, and you and I started at Coldwell Banker together.
Yeah,
Yeah, so you've been licensed for how long?
30 years.
Yeah, all right, so it'll be a good contact base. Jim will be looking to refer people down here occasionally, and obviously vice versa, so welcome, Jim. Alan, welcome. You want to stand up and introduce yourself? So Alan transferred from Russ Lyon about 6 weeks ago?
Yep.
But we haven't had a meeting in 6 weeks.
Been doing real estate for about 30 years, started new home sales for 15 years, then moved up out here on the hill when it was just Pinnacle Peak Realty. So I'm glad to be here, guys.
Yeah, welcome, Alan.
Thanks, Alan.
Amanda, stand up. Amanda transferred from Keller Williams about a week ago. Husband and wife team last week. Introduce yourself.
Looking forward to new location, new office. Been practicing Scottsdale, Phoenix, and East Valley since 2011. So looking forward to meeting you.
Yeah, welcome. Shannon Parr.
Hi there.
Shannon.
Hi.
All right. So Shannon's got an interesting model. Shannon is licensed. She's going to do a Remax kind of connect. It's an interesting model. So what she will do is reach out to her client base and then look at who in our population is the best to connect with, and mostly referral basis. So it's an interesting concept. In addition to that, she can handle your PR. She can handle your digital marketing and some other items. So she's gonna, it's interesting as real estate evolves, how many options are out there to help us. So Shannon, go ahead.
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah, you
Yeah, my name, like Dale said, my name is Shannon, and I've been in escrow and real estate since '96. I've done loans. I retired from that industry in 2008, right after the bubble. Reinvented myself and got my license, realized it is an extremely hard job. I could not cut it as a realtor, but I have all these connections and these clients, and my skill set was really just serving the two people. Like an escrow officer would, I transferred those skills over, and the sales rep as well. So I'm here to just really help connect clients and just be the secret agent and really help out with blessing you guys and being that front person, that customer service, that liaison for your agent or for your clients. So you have great customer service reviews. You can go look at more homes, really serve them in those areas where I can give them the follow-ups, check on escrow, and those things, the area that I'm good at. So you all have a very win-win-win area.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sherry Reeves, did she make
Thank
it
you.
transferred in from Engel and Volkers? No? All right.
No.
And then Ryan Roberts, is he here? I didn't
Haven't
see
seen
Ryan.
him either.
No. All right. So, all right. The next big date that we have as a company gathering beyond the February meeting will be our awards banquet. One of the neat things, and I really want to push it, is that every award to RE/MAX, known demand, will be there on a display. Like Don is one of the Illuminary Award winners. Only 20 people in the United States has received it. Circle of Legends Award. Again, I don't think there's any Circle of Legend Award winners in here. A lot of them are coming up next year.
Getting close.
With the exception of Don. But these will all be in a display. Really, really neat to come in and see it, because even though you see it online, it's different to see it there in person for motivation, goal setting. It's great stuff. So, all right.
All right, thank you. So if you're not able to make it to the meeting and you're actually doing the live stream, just a little hint, you need to turn up the volume. just because we're a little bit further away from our iPad, so we haven't got the microphone out for it yet. So turn up the volume a little bit, that way you can hear completely. We have our own, Helene Cass, is going to talk to us just for a couple of minutes about the Hutch Fund.
As you may or may not know, I am on the Hutch Fund Committee. It is a charity that helps realtors that are in dire need, either have experienced a crisis or catastrophic event. It was formed years ago in honor of a Scottsdale realtor named Dick Hutchinson, who practiced from 1975 until 2000 when he passed away. The fund helps SAR members with medical costs, things like transportation to and from medical appointments, doctor's bills, home care, gives financial assistance when somebody is out of work due to treatment or due to recovery. It can help with daily living expenses like mortgage payment, rent payment, utility bills, insurance, SAR dues, patient advocacy, and a whole lot more. The charity is funded by donations, so like for the last 3 years, we collected $94,000 in donations, and we awarded $71,000 in donations to 15 different recipients. It's a great cause. It's helped a lot of people. We used to have an annual fundraiser called Star Night, where the SAR members would perform on stage at the Scottsdale Center of Performing Arts. It was a blast, but we're no longer doing that. This year, we're having a gala at the Fairmont Princess. It'll be a reception and a dinner. There will be a live auction and a silent auction. There will be a guest speaker, Scott Williams, who was with the Chicago Bulls. And he'll be talking about his time playing with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. But he's also supposed to talk about how he moved forward and never gave up after a tragic event happened when he was 19. And his father shot and killed his mother in his garage and then turned the gun on himself. So I just can't even imagine. We'll also be giving out the Caring Heart and Good Neighbor Awards, so please attend. The money goes to a great cause. The ticket forms are in your packets on your chairs. They are $125 per person. There is also sponsorship packages available. They start at $500, and for that you get 2 tickets and name recognition and some other bennies. And it goes, you can give as much as you want. The sponsorships go up to $10,000. And of course, if you just want to donate money, you can do that too. On the other hand, if you're a SAR member and you need financial assistance, there is an application that you can fill out online that will go to the committee, and we'll review it, contact you, go over the process and tell you what the next steps are. Of course, all applications are confidential. We really appreciate any support you can give, even if you can't attend the gala. You never know when you might need the help.
Thank you, Helene.
Thanks, Helene.
Okay, we're going to have Sandy come up, give the introduction to our guest speaker today. He's really excited about this. He's known Scott for a number of years, so he would like to say a few words first.
And I promise 30 seconds. I'm going to yield all of my time today. I know you're disappointed to Scott because obviously it took so long. We've had this on the schedule for almost 6 months now. So to get Scott to speak to us, for those that don't know, Scott Drucker is the general counsel for AAR. In case you don't know it, 2 weeks there's new purchase contracts coming out, and no one knows it better than Scott, so we truly have the best. So that's it. It's all yours.
Wow.
25 seconds.
25 seconds. I too am going to take just 30 seconds of your time. Well, good morning, guys. How are you?
Great.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you a little bit and share with you a little bit about the purchase contract. I'm going to try. I'm just told I have to stand and try to hear, which is kind of hard because of the light. But we're live streaming, and for those of you who are on the streaming, if I step away, you can still hear me and you can still see the slide. So it's not the end of the world. Okay. All right, guys, there was a handout. Are you guys getting that now, passed along to you? Okay, so it's just a copy of the purchase contract with some red line revisions so you can follow along as we go, all right? Got those all handed out, Sandy? Okay.
He's got them all, pass them down, dude. I gave you a pass of the whole room.
Oh, there we go. All right.
You didn't give me enough, apparently.
Sorry.
We got two more back there. Okay. All right, guys, let's get started, okay? I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over how the purchase contract is revised. It's a pretty long process. It involves a number of work groups made up of agents from all over the state, from big firms, small firms. We've got industry partners, right? Lending, title, real estate attorneys. Everybody pitches in. And it really took the better part of a year. We tried to calculate the total number of hours that we met for. We estimated it was somewhere around 112 hours of just meetings, plus all the work we do after those meetings. So it was a long process. Throughout this process, there was really two lessons that I learned, and I want to go through those lessons with you and ask that you just kind of keep them in mind as we go through the purchase contract, all right? First thing that I've learned is the purchase contract is not perfect, okay? It's not perfect. It's never been perfect. It will never be perfect. We cannot envision every scenario that's going to come up, all right? It simply can't be done. So, making a perfect contract, that was not our goal. What our goal was to use the lessons that we've learned from prior transactions to eliminate ambiguity and to add clarification to certain provisions where we've seen problems arise, right? One of the things that we have going for us is that this contract has been used, hundreds of thousands of times, and it seems to me like whenever there's a problem, someone calls me and talks about it. So we're more than aware of those provisions that have caused issues, okay? And so our goal was to try to address those provisions, and one of the themes that we're going to talk about today is eliminating ambiguity, okay? And in fact, I'm going to go through some scenarios under the current contract that have led to disputes so you can see the ambiguity and then see how we tried to fix it. Okay, because in going through the changes, I don't just want you to see the changes, I want you to have an understanding as to why we made the changes. Fair enough? Okay. Second lesson that I learned is we can't make everyone happy. All right? It's impossible, okay? We couldn't even make everyone happy that's on the work group. This process is truly about compromise. It is a give and take. Does anyone know roughly how many realtors we have in the state of Arizona right now? No, that's agents. We've got, for realtors, we're about 47,000 agents, okay? Tell me the last time you did something that universally made 47,000 people happy, right? You haven't. Okay, I'm sitting in a meeting. I've got one agent on my left, loves warranted items, wants warranted items to remain in the contract exactly as is. I've got another agent on my right, hates warranted items, wants them taken out, can't stand them. I can't make both of them happy, all right? And the reason I mention this is because there are going to be things in this purchase contract that you may not like, right? There may be changes that you don't like. There may be provisions that you don't like and you can't believe we didn't fix them. I understand, all right? I understand that there may be things that you don't like. All I want you to know is that a lot of time and effort went into it. None of the decisions were made lightly, a lot of debate, and we tried our best to make the changes that we think are going to be beneficial, but I understand it's not perfect and it may not make everybody happy. Okay, again, I'm going to go through the changes. I'm going to jump pretty quickly from one change to the next, and you can follow along in your contracts. One thing though, ask questions, all right? Just stop me at any time, ask questions, raise your hands, yell them out. I'm happy to stop and ask questions, all right? I know it's a little bit of a larger group, but when I talk, I'd like it to be as interactive as possible. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Let's start with earnest money, okay? Because this was one of the first changes that we made to the purchase contract. There were two things in the old version of the purchase contract, in the 2016 version of the contract, that always bothered me in regard to earnest money, right? We identify the amount of the earnest money on page number 1. Where's actually the provision, though, that talks about earnest money? Page number 8, yeah. Never really liked that. It didn't make sense to me why we didn't have that in the same area. The other provision regarding earnest money that I hated is there was a provision that always said that the broker, that the earnest money has been received by the broker. Are you guys always in receipt of the earnest money? No, right? Especially not when we're talking about wire transfers. So those were two things in the purchase contract immediately, right off the bat, that I knew had to be changed. What did we do? Okay, first thing we did is we took the earnest money section from page 8, we put it to page 1, so it's in the same location as where we're identifying the amount of the earnest money. The second thing we did is we eliminated the language that talks about the broker being in receipt. Okay, so that's in regard to the changes. So let's talk about some of the issues that we see in regard to earnest money. First of all, is earnest money required to have a binding contract? No. Okay, it's not an actual requirement. Because we had some people come and say, well, can you put that earnest money is required? But it's not required. And I'm sure you guys have had transactions on some occasions where earnest money simply wasn't appropriate, and that's okay. When is the earnest money due, though? Under the purchase contract, when is the earnest money actually due? Okay, ambiguous. It actually says, it says upon acceptance. Okay, so there is a time frame in there, and acceptance is defined on section 8.0 of the purchase contract. But we got a lot of feedback from members that said, well, can you put in a more definitive time? Can you put in 24 hours? Can you put in 36 hours? I would say the work group probably spent somewhere around 2 hours debating just this issue. It's time well spent. And ultimately, they decided to leave it as is. And they did it, I think, for two reasons. The first is, the parties themselves aren't necessarily always in control, strict control over the timing of the earnest money and when it hits, and a lot of that depends on the wire transfers and when banks are open. The second thing that they did, or that they were concerned about, is they wanted the parties to be able to have some room for common sense, okay? Right at the beginning of the transaction, everybody's kind of feeling their way through. Not every transaction is the same, especially in regard to the earnest money. We want parties to be able to exercise common sense. Now, can you issue a cure notice if they don't put the earnest money in? Yes. Now, one of the things that I would ask you to do is pick up the phone and call the other agent and find out exactly what's going on before you issue the cure notice, because I think you'll find that a lot of times they've started the wire transfer process, it just hasn't gone all the way through yet. But if you feel that you need to have a deadline, a time frame by which you can have that deadline as to when the earnest money is due, you can issue a cure, right? And then you're putting in that deadline in the purchase contract that you've got 3 days to cure it. Fair enough? Okay. Let's go on to lines 19 and 20 of the purchase contract in regard to cash sales. We made a change in the purchase contract in regard to cash sales because now, when you have a cash sale and you are submitting an offer, you have to attach to that offer either a letter of credit or a source of funds, okay? The cash sale language, it didn't used to be in the purchase contract. Does anybody know where it used to be?
Additional clause.
The additional clause addendum, exactly right. So all we did was we took the language from the additional clause addendum and we moved it into the purchase contract, but we made a change to the language, one change. In the additional clause addendum, it said that the proof of funds, the letter of credit, had to be conveyed within 5 days of contract acceptance. We took that out for a couple of reasons. Number one, we got a lot of feedback that sellers wanted that information at the time they were evaluating the offer, that it didn't do them much good 5 days later. They wanted to have that information when they were evaluating the offer that was coming in, all right? The second thing that, say it again?
There was an option there, wasn't it?
It said 5 days. It said 5 days. And then the other thing that we got feedback on is, well, why are we treating the cash offer so different from a finance offer, right? A couple of years ago, we changed the finance offers, and now when you submit a finance offer, what do you have to attach to the offer? A pre-qual. It's akin to a source of funds in regard to a cash sale, and so we wanted to treat both of them equally, all right? And that was the reason behind those changes. So, risk reduction pointer. What do you guys do? You get a purchase contract, and it's a cash offer, and it doesn't have attached to it a letter of credit or a source of funds. What do?
Call the agent.
First thing, call the other agent, right? Ask him to provide it. Let's say, though, you got a deadline for acceptance, and you can't get a hold of them. What do? Exactly right. That's exactly right. Line 6 of the counteroffer says, this acceptance is contingent on, and then you put in your contingency, right? Contingent on buyer submitting acceptable proof of funds within X number of days, right? Can you issue a cure notice right away? No, because you're not under contract yet, okay? Now, in theory, you could accept and in part of your acceptance attach the cure notice, but I think the better way to do it is to submit the counter, and that way you're making sure you're getting it, and it makes sure that your seller is approving and accepting the source of funds that comes in. So that's the change that we made in regard to cash sales. All right, section 1G, fixtures and personal property. 3 changes that I want to go over here, and then a couple risk reduction pointers. The first thing we did is we tried to define the term fixtures. Now, if you take a look at fixtures, there's a definition that says it shall mean property attached and fixed to the premises. You know, we always use the term fixtures in the contract, but it was never defined, and so we wanted to add a definition. Now, admittedly, it's not a great definition, okay? But it's like working condition. There is no great definition, okay? And that's part of the problem. We have an attorney in my office, and she always says, well, the term itself, it's a little, she calls it squishy. It's a little squishy. And I think that that's fair, okay? Because there's no great definition. When I think of fixtures, pretty simple. You take a house, okay? Turn it upside down. You shake it. Whatever falls, that's personal property. Whatever stays, that's a fixture, okay? So, we tried to define fixtures as best we can. Something else we did is we wanted to emphasize the word existing, right? The seller agrees that all existing fixtures, existing personal property, and existing means to operate convey, but only if it's existing. You've got that ceiling fan, and the ceiling fan is operated by the wall control. It never had a remote. Are you obligated to convey a remote? No, right? Because it's simply not existing. The last change that we made to this section, and it was one that I was, I guess, a little embarrassed that I didn't think of myself, which was put everything in alphabetical order. It seemed fairly simple, right? But yeah, I can't tell you how many hours I've looked at that, and that never crossed my mind until someone said it. It's like, yeah. I think just for ease of reference, it's a little bit easier to have everything in alphabetical order. So let's talk about the risk reduction pointers, okay? 2 of them. Because there's 2 of these issues, 2 of these areas that we see causing a lot of disputes. TVs, TV brackets, okay? At AAR, we've always had this informal position that the television itself, personal property, the brackets, fixtures, okay? That's always been our informal position. Now we formalized it, okay? So if your sellers want to take those brackets with them, put it in Section 8A. Okay, they've got a contract for it. Otherwise, the brackets are going to stay. The second thing is outdoor landscaping, shrubbery, trees, and unpotted plants. This is one that seemed relatively obvious to me, but apparently not. If something is in the ground, it stays. I can't believe how many people take trees with them. That's insane to me. Okay, unpotted plants. Look, if it's unpotted, it's in the ground, it stays. If it's in a pot, and I don't care how big the pot is. I don't care if the pot is hooked up to the drip system. If it's in a pot, it goes, okay? We tried to draw a fine line to eliminate some of this ambiguity. Have you seen this issue arise before?
Yeah.
It's amazing to me. See, that's one of the things. I'm not out in the field. I wouldn't have known. It would have seemed to me if it's in the ground, it stays. If you have sellers that have beautiful potted plants out in front of their property and they want them to stay, you have to contract for it, okay? Otherwise, they are going to go. Any other concerns about these items?
Scott explained that on potted plants, so there's a drip system.
Correct, right.
So the seller now has to cut the drip system.
That's right. And usually with the potted plants, the drip system is not underground, right? It lays on top of it, which usually makes for an easier removal. Yes, but I don't care the size of the pot, and I don't care if it's hooked up to a drip system. If it's in a pot, it gets to go, okay? All right. Let's talk about solar. All right. I love the excitement. Yeah, that's the type of excitement I'm looking for. Thank you. All right, solar. Look, we get a lot of requests at AAR for some additional resources in regard to solar, and I want to let you know that we're working on that, okay? We are forming a work group currently that's called the Solar Lease Work Group. I think that group is going to do one of 2 things. Either they're going to create a standalone solar lease addendum, or, I think this is less likely, but if they only come up with a paragraph, put it in the additional clause addendum, but I think it's going to be a standalone document. Does anybody know how many other states have a form specifically addressing solar and solar leases? 0. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. So, we're going to be pioneers in this area, and we're going to have that out to you, I expect, sometime this year. But let's talk about for now, how solar is treated under the purchase contract, okay? It entirely depends on whether the solar system is owned by the seller or whether it's leased by the seller. That is the dispositive issue, okay? If it is owned, take a look at line 52. If it's owned, it conveys. Line 65. If it's leased, it does not automatically convey. Now, can they still contract for it to convey? Yes, but it doesn't automatically convey because the buyer has to be approved by the solar company to assume the lease. So you can't have an automatic conveyance. You need to have a contingency there where the transfer of the leased solar system is contingent on the buyer being approved by the solar company, okay? And sometimes that's not always as easy as we would like. I've seen plenty of instances where that buyer needed a higher credit score to assume the solar lease than they needed to get the loan in the first place, which is somewhat amazing to me. Okay, so you're representing a buyer. How does the buyer know if the solar system is leased?
Spuds.
Spuds, right? Okay, take a look now at line 65. Leased items have to be disclosed within 3 days after contract acceptance. And of course, what's the best way to go about doing that? The spuds, okay? Now, I know you don't have the spuds in front of you, but I also know you have it all memorized, so this shouldn't be a problem, okay? Line 186 asks for leased alternate power systems. That is where you're going to identify a leased solar system, all right? Now, line 159 just asks in general for leased systems. So any other leased systems within the property, right, like your water purification system or whatever else, that would go on line 159. But you've got to make sure that on line 186, your sellers are identifying any leased solar. Questions about solar? Okay, that wasn't so bad.
I think everyone's confused. You're talking about the spuds, not the actual contract.
Correct.
Line 2 is just talking
That's right.
You're going to be slipping through.
Okay, I apologize. So again, you have to disclose the leased items. The best way to do it is by way of the seller's property disclosure statement. So I was trying to indicate where on the seller's property disclosure statement you're going to go ahead and have your buyers make those disclosures. All right?
Seller.
That's what I said. I'll only do that about 100 times today, so yeah, feel free to correct me. I would appreciate it. All right. Lines 55 through 62, identifying existing personal property that conveys. I want to just give you a general, generic hypothetical, okay? And it's disputes of this nature all the time because we see buyer-seller mediations about this, and we also see ethics complaints against agents coming in. So the generic hypothetical is, you're right, you've got the kitchen, it has a refrigerator, the kitchen opens up to the laundry room, it's almost kind of one big room, and that has a refrigerator also, and the contract says refrigerator conveys. And then, of course, there's the inevitable dispute as to which refrigerator, and of course, you know, whichever one the buyer takes is the wrong one, okay? That's how it always works. Damn! All right, seller. So, we made a change to lines 55 through 62 of the purchase contract, where now we have rooms for specific descriptions of the personal property that's going to convey. I think a lot of you guys are doing this already, right? You're already putting this in, because this is a pretty experienced room of agents. But for those less experienced agents out there, we're hoping that this gives them the reminder, okay, hey, I've got to put some detail in here, eliminate the ambiguity so we avoid those disputes as to which piece of personal property is actually conveying. Fair enough? Okay. I want to go through, I talked originally about the fact that I want to share with you some hypotheticals under the purchase contract, the current purchase contract. Doing okay?
Yeah, when you're back a little bit, yeah, that's
better?
There you go, yes.
All right.
Sorry.
It's like I need an X. It's really hard to stand in one place. Okay. So, I wanted to go through a hypothetical, right, under the contract, the current contract that's resulted in some disputes. And so let's go through this one real quick. And it's simply what happens when a buyer submits a notice of unfulfilled loan contingency prior to conveying an LSU. So, simple hypothetical, right? Buyer submits an offer. Attached to the offer is the what? The pre-qual, okay? Now, the offer is accepted, so we've got our binding contract. 5 days later, the LSU hasn't yet been conveyed, but the buyer's lender calls the buyer and says, hey, sorry, your loan has been denied. Can the buyer at that point in time turn around and issue a notice of unfulfilled loan contingency? What's the answer?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, why?
Because I don't think it takes that time. He's notifying the seller as soon as he knew that he couldn't qualify.
Okay, so let's take a look at the actual language in the current version of the contract. It says that it's contingent on them obtaining loan approval for the loan described in the AAR LSU. Well, there hasn't been an LSU issued yet. And so we have a blind spot in the purchase contract that was resulting in disputes and resulting in a lot of confusion. And a blind spot that we needed to fill in, which we did by a revision to Section 2B of the purchase contract. Now, if you look at section 2B of the purchase contract, it makes it clear that the contract is contingent on getting loan approval for either the loan described in the AAR loan status update or the pre-qualification form, whichever is delivered later. So in my scenario that I went through, there had been no LSU issued. So under this language, which we tried to clarify, yes, the buyer can go ahead and cancel because they're not getting the loan in the pre-qual. Now, sometimes the loan that's set forth in the pre-qual is different, right, than the loan that we're seeing in the LSU. So once the LSU is issued, you can cancel, but only if you're not getting approval for the loan that's set forth in the LSU. Does it make sense, the blind spot that we tried to fill in? Okay, questions about it? Go ahead, Sandy.
So a buyer has a pre-qual and it says whatever. And then the LSU, he now changes his loan.
Right.
And he doesn't qualify under the new status update, he can get out.
Yes.
Even though the seller accepted the contract based on the initial pre-qual.
But remember, there's provisions in there for changes in the loan, right? And certain changes you have to just give notice. Other changes, you actually have to get approval for.
Right.
Okay?
So the point is, if you see an LSU that's different from the pre-qual, then it's incumbent upon us as the listing agent to inquire about that. Because
absolutely right.
if it affects his ability to qualify, that's not a reason to cancel the contract.
Correct. That's right, because you've got to give that approval. You got to get that approval first. All right. Oops. Let's go to section 2C of the purchase contract regarding the unfulfilled loan contingency. Now, this is one of those sections that not everybody loves. Bill Fuchs, where are you? Raise your hand. Okay, this is the anti-Bill Fuchs provision. That's what we call it at AAR, okay? Bill hates this provision, and he's not alone, and I understand why, okay? But it's one of those that for now, is going to stay how it is. We took a lot of polls, a lot of surveys, discussed this more than I would care to admit, okay? And for now, we've decided to keep the provision as is, but we're going to continue to evaluate it. You're going to see a lot of redding in the middle of section 2C, which begs the question, what's changed? And the answer is nothing. Nothing has changed in regard to 2C. All we did was add additional language to try to clarify it, okay? In all honesty, I thought it was clear before, but we had some title companies, really one significant title company, that was interpreting this provision differently than we did at AAR and differently than all of the other title companies in the state. And so we needed to try to make it clearer. And I hope that we've done that. But let's go through a hypothetical just to make sure that we're all on the same page. So here's our scenario, right?